Okay, so the title is Am I the Butthole for Ignoring My Husband? I, Carla 30, am 6 months pregnant with my husband, Harry, who's 31, his baby. Harry and I have been married for a year and 2 days, and I'm pregnant with our first child. During this pregnancy, I've been very exhausted every day and would usually come home from work and go to bed an hour later. Then I'd wake up at midnight and reheat what Harry had made us for dinner. For context, I've been part of a huge work project that's been going on for months, and I've been extremely overworked. On top of this, my husband doesn't have a job at the moment and isn't looking for one unless I remind him. I've been working overtime and for a few hours on my days off to get as much money as I can before maternity leave, since I don't have a high-paying job, and I'd like to have some extra money for takeaway food or for long tireless days with the baby. Our anniversary was on the 6th of August, and I'd asked him if we could have a romantic dinner at home and then snuggle up to watch TV under a warm blanket until we passed out. Aw. I thought it was a wonderful idea since I was too tired to go out and because I knew that Harry was doing most, if not all, of the household chores. However, he seemed a little annoyed when he agreed, but I thought nothing of it. The next morning, Harry seemed quite cold towards me and barely looked at me in the eyes when I asked if he was feeling well, but I had to go to work, and so I left without an answer. Once I got home, he wasn't there, but that was normal since he could have been out with friends or at an interview, so I went to sleep. I woke up at 11 that night to see that I was still alone in the house, so I checked my phone. I had about 8 missed calls from Harry and a long text from 40 minutes ago. I'm summarizing, but the text read, I understand how tired you are because of this pregnancy and you having to work extra hours most days, but I'm over being ignored every day and having a 5-minute conversation with you every so often. You expect me to do all the housework and plan our lazy and boring anniversary alone. I'm really annoyed, so I'm staying at a friend's tonight. Text me when you see this. Of course, I called him and texted him about being sorry and wanting to talk, but I never got an answer. In the morning, I called my boss about having a personal day and spent most of the day waiting for Harry and planning my big apology. However, when he came home, he silently handed me a rose and a heartfelt, emotionally written card before he went out for an interview. His card told me how much he loves me and how he doesn't want to leave this conversation, but he needs a few days until we talk to plan out what he wants to say. I've had ages to think about it, and I realize how distant I've been towards Harry, and I've barely lifted a finger around the house, but I'm still not sure if I'm fully to blame here. So, am I the butthole?
By the way, Sadia used to work in radio. That's why her voice is so good. I was like, wow, it's so good. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was like, realized like, wait, is that, the text is kind of small, but you did a great job.
Yeah, I'm good. But yeah, like this is a complex situation, right?
Yeah, it's quite complex. It was very heated. I like this story because actually there's an update and the comment section is quite heated. Maybe I can just, you can give your feedback.
Yeah. So like, is this woman an asshole or not, right? Mm-hmm. To me, immediately, she's not an asshole because, you know, this person is pregnant and working. And also, like, you know, of course, she has a partner who takes care of the home, which is like a huge given thing. But it's also true that, like, maybe, like, that doesn't make her an asshole. Maybe the reason why I think this does not make her an asshole, and this is the fact that she was not being able to tell that this guy is, like, the fact that, you know, when they did nothing on their, like, nothing is in, to her it seemed like a romantic dinner, and maybe he expected something else. The fact that she could not tell that this was kind of, might have been his expectation, he wanted to do something special. This shows that there probably there's a gap between them right now. And her not realizing it does not make her an asshole to me. Like, I just feel like they are going through a rough patch and it's tough. He's taking care of the kids and the house, and then she's like working to get some money in, which makes me think, and she's going on maternity leave soon. So not an asshole, but it's just unfortunate, like, you know, in a very stressful situation. But yeah, like, I don't think she's an asshole.
You're so sweet, because the majority of the comment section was very much against the husband.
Really? I don't think he is an asshole too.
Oh, okay. Well, state why you think so. State.
I think that because I feel that it happened to us before, not the pregnancy one, FYI, no. But, like many times that I thought about work and then he would just talk by himself, like, and I'm not, like sometimes and I just didn't focus, and I felt bad. Like at the end, he felt like, oh, I was just talking to you. And I feel like I haven't like compartmentalized my mind, when I got home and I still think about work. So when I'm like, oh, I want to be home, I want to be with you, but I still think about work, So I think that because if he's home all the time, he's alone with the kids, someone you want some adult to talk with when you're at home. But from her mind, she's just like, oh my God, I'm like going through this pregnancy. I have work. I have a lot in my mind. I don't have time for this. But actually, like your partner, it's fairly important too. And I mean, I think they're just not vibing. Yeah. At this point of time, they're not vibing. I know that we keep saying this, but I think that they should just communicate, like, what's happening in their mind, what does she want, I mean, she did say that what she want, but maybe she didn't ask him, like, on the same side as well, like, what do you want, you know? I mean, it's anniversary, so it's supposed to be two persons celebrate things together, but it shouldn't be only him. But I think maybe she take the advantage, I don't want to say advantage, but the positioning of like, I'm pregnant. Yeah. So I can sort of like plan this, and I'm like the person who bring the money.
Wow, that's so funny because I'm more defensive, I think, of the pregnant wife, and then you're more defensive of the husband, which is so interesting.
I mean, it's her first pregnancy. 6 months into it, really working, like going out, and I think she's also doing overtime. I think somewhere she mentioned, right?
Yeah, and extra money 6 months pregnant, like
extremely overworked.
That's pretty far along.
I think she is not an asshole at all. So this is not even a question in my mind. I think the husband is more immature than an asshole. I think they're both quite young, 30 and 31. I mean, they've been married for a year and 2 days, they say. So I think they're also not only just young, but this is a young relationship as well. And the first kid on the way, I think things can be stressful. But I would say maybe he's not an asshole because maybe it's not intentional. And then later, I guess he understood where he, made a mistake. And then he wanted to apologize, but we don't get the resolution here at least. But I think this is one of those conflicts that you may have in a relationship. But I don't think there is anyone doing anything malicious here.
Yeah, and it's not easy, even from his perspective. Like, it's not easy to. So he felt what he felt, and it's so funny. Like, side note, I have to say that we're at that age where 30-year-olds are like young.
Yeah, when you said young, I was like we are old.
We just timed ourselves. But anyway, definitely not the asshole. The guy, he's a human being.
Yeah, true.
He is taking. I mean, I don't think it's got to do with, in this case at least, got to do anything with the gender of the person. Like, true. It could be the other way around. And how would you guys feel about that if it was the other way around? Probably the same.
I feel like one exception. I mean, I'm all for gender equality, but I think one exception is pregnancy, because I'm sure it takes a toll on your body. Yeah. I mean, like, it's the same. Hormones. It's probably like 100 times worse than like when you're like exhausted the next day after a workout because your body is building up muscle, but like you're forming like a whole
you're making a baby.
So I can imagine that taking a toll on you. So I feel like one thing, I feel like pregnancy kind of gives you a little bit of a pass for some.
But I'm actually a little bit annoyed. So I got it wrong. I thought that they already have like one kid at home. So actually he's unemployed and he stay at home. Mm-hmm. And
I also got the impression that they have a kid.
So this is their first kid.
I'm pregnant with our first child.
First child.
Going to be their first kid.
So it can be seemingly annoyed too. Like if like you are a full-time working and then you're pregnant and then your husband. Yeah, I mean, I don't think she's not an asshole, but I mean,
also from Harry's point of view, I mean, I don't know which country this is from, but I think it's still, from a social perspective, men are still supposed to contribute. Typically, that's the expectation, the usual expectation in terms of the income. So Harry might also feel maybe he's not contributing enough, and then when he didn't have the means to plan something more lavish, which is again the typical norm, like the standard, like going to like a nice, French
Michelin
restaurant or somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good perspective.
And maybe that's where he was also coming from, and then he, kind of reacted the way he reacted. Maybe, it kind of goes in that direction as well, and that's why I also don't think he's an asshole, but more immature.
True.
Yeah,
I agree.
I didn't think on that perspective, honestly.
Okay, now that we're on the same page, we can go to the
update. Yeah,
go to the update. So
yes, I'm looking forward to it now.
Okay, so the first update is from Whisper 4969. It says, "Not the
I'm kidding.
not the asshole. What is he? 5 years old? Did he forget how to speak? He clearly forgot how to work and is
wow, I love this capitalized.
And is expecting his pregnant wife to support his lazy butt while he sulks like a toddler because he's not getting enough attention because you have to work extra hours to keep a roof over your damn head, food on the table, and the damn lights on. So you can see him sulking all while you're pregnant. I'm sorry, but this is not a man. That's a child who apparently is still stuck to his own mom's chest and hasn't weaned off yet to know that he's supposed to be taking care of you. So let me get this straight. He doesn't work. He refuses to look for a job, and he doesn't speak to tell you what he's thinking. Crystal balls have been broken for so long, and people don't realize they have to actually talk now. He resents you for not meeting his needs while meeting none of yours. He plays emotional games with your head, banging out of the house while you're asleep to go, quote unquote, play with his friends on your anniversary, then comes back with a flower and an apology, and in the same breath says, "But I don't know if I've forgiven you yet." You know what that is, right? Narcissism.
Ooh.
Honey, he's gaslighting you. At every single turn, he is gaslighting you, and you're letting him. Stop it. You have one baby on the way. You don't need two. You've raised him long enough, and he needs to go back home to his mommy to reattach to her chest.
Oh my God.
If that's what he wants so much.
That's brutal.
Because clearly he's not been weaned. He wants a mom, not a wife. You're already single, baby. You're raising a full-grown man and supporting a full-grown damn man. If he wants to be a child, fine. Send him on his way. Get yourself to the courthouse. File for separation with intent to divorce. He can get himself a job and pay child support. It's time for him to grow up. You don't need two babies in the house. You deserve better.
It sounds like from an experienced.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like too specific, right? No, but
also see the social expectation aspect. So just because he's a man, so like a lot of this lining of reasoning is basically he should get a. I mean, of course, I also agree he should get a job. There should be contribution from both sides. They should work it out. But this expectation can be also difficult for the guy.
Yep.
And I think sometimes it's not as easy as just apply and get a job.
Yep.
Maybe we don't know the background. Maybe he did apply, for 20 positions and he got rejected, and then you don't have the confidence to go out. Again, these are a lot of assumptions.
Yeah.
But just on this particular aspect, putting all that pressure is also, I guess, not nice.
Yeah. I actually thought about it too, that I don't think that maybe he tried already to apply for jobs, but maybe he got rejected and he didn't share with his wife, that, hey, I did, because he probably doesn't want to disappoint her, so that's why she feels that I need to keep or reminding him to that point. But I mean, but in a way, like when you, I don't want to say perform, but when you don't contribute as much on one side, you want to do better on the other side, so he can also be more helpful on the other side of things.
Yeah, like not being an added pressure for her.
Yeah.
Thing is, what that person said, I just think that it's a bit extreme. Like, I don't think that, he needs to separate for him with intent to divorce.
Uber.
Yeah. Right?
I think that commenter is the asshole, if anything. I mean, it's just too intense.
It's too extreme.
With that information that we had.
We're also angry sometimes on Reddit, on the comment sections, like,
The comments are sometimes more brutal than the actual post on Reddit.
Yeah, I love the sassiness of it though.
So there's an extension here, right?
This is the part
I think there's
two.
an extension here.
This is the part two.
I'm from the UK, so Ireland, blah blah. So
okay.
This is.
Whoa.
Your turn.
Okay, sure. So where do I start from?
I think it's the same thing as what's on the screen.
Small update. It's the 17th now. I've had a longer think. I'm not deciding anything until our talk, but I definitely won't be staying in my home with him after this. I can't trust him not to run away again. I'll talk more about this on my actual update, but I've gained some self-respect and realized he's being an asshole. I talked to my mom and she's happy for me to move in with her on the 21st, and I'm free to stay for as long as I need to. So I'm going to post an update just to clear the air when I can, hopefully the day after Harry's home, 20th or 21st, and then delete this all a day or two later, or I'll forget to.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like my ideal case scenario for the what the update could be was that we had a conversation and then he came out and he told me a bunch of things that I didn't know, he was suffering, he's not being able to, like you said, I got rejected at a job or something. That's and then they sort of worked it out.
It's such a happy ending kind of thing.
Yeah.
Something, what's your hunch?
I think that post was the right one.
Yeah, it was. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking. I'm
okay.
I want to start by saying that a lot of questions have been answered since Harry came home yesterday evening. The main one being that he did use the second ticket before his sister. Okay, not sure what that is. For the last few days, Harry's friend has been living with me and helped me through this. One way was that he scheduled a couples and individual counselor for Harry and I. I have also been calling my mom every day since the 13th, and with the one counseling session, Harry's friend and my mom all giving me the same advice. I scheduled an early maternity leave with a slight bonus to each paycheck because of all my overtime and unpaid help. I officially leave work in 4 days. Back to yesterday. Harry's friend went to pick Harry up and sent me photos of who he was with, as reassurance that it was his sister, Tiff, not her real name. When they arrived, I prepared dinner and cleaned the downstairs of our home so that we could have a civilized conversation without hunger or distraction to stop us. Harry looked extremely tired and he seemed to be on the verge of crying the moment he opened the door to the mall. I was incredibly patient for the sole reason of being able to get through this discussion in one piece, and so when Harry wouldn't speak, I let Tiff explain why she had gone with him. Tiff is a lovely lady who helped me through the months before my pregnancy. However, Harry didn't stay in close contact with her, and I lost touch when the work project started. Because of this, she had no clue about anything going on until Harry called her and said that he had a spare ticket to Ireland. At first, she was reluctant since she knew that I was pregnant, and so she tried to ask why he would leave and if I was with someone who could care for me. Eventually, Harry snapped and told her that the real reason of why he was going away, he snapped and told her the real reason of why she was going away. And so she joined him to make sure that he knew it was wrong, but also to help him through all the emotions that he was feeling. So it sounds like he left on a trip.
Yeah.
She was the reason that Harry came back to me. If she hadn't gone with him, then Harry admitted that he might have moved to central London or a small village in the countryside to hide from this.
What the hell?
It took everything in me not to cry when she admitted that, and I could clearly see the shame on Harry's face. I'm not going to recite everything word for word, and so I'll quickly clear some things up. Harry did use the backup savings account, like I thought, to pay for the tickets. The reason that Harry's friend didn't see who the other ticket was for was because once they had found the tickets, Harry's friend went to bed. Tiff was by Harry's side the entire holiday in Ireland, and confirmed without a doubt that this wasn't to find a fling. They spent most of their days in the cheapest hotel room possible in silence before Harry started talking about everything. When we met and married, Harry was a loving, hardworking, job-having man who only dreamed was to have a wonderful family and then retired to one of those cute stone villages in the south of England. After an hour, Harry finally spoke up. Tiff and Harry's friend went into the living room, but I never realized how strange it would feel to be with Harry again. He confessed that he'd stopped loving me a month into my pregnancy.
No.
It wasn't due to the fact that I was sick all the time, dirty as a mole, or wouldn't stop talking about the baby. He just didn't have a reason. Since he couldn't think of why he stopped loving me, he assumed that the love would come back in no time, that maybe it was some delusion caused by the stress of the baby on the way. Over time, that love didn't come back, and he started feeling incredibly guilty and alone in it all, which is when he got fired from his job. He told me it was because his work performance was belittled by new management, but it was really because he was too trapped in his feelings to think of anything but how he still didn't love me. Then he never tried to get a job because sitting at home without me, since I had to work more, was much better than sitting at work and possibly getting fired again. He came to love how he had alone time until the moment that he felt alone. That was when he refused to work just so he wouldn't have to see me. He wanted to sit and wait and see how long it would be before I came to him. The trip was to test the waters. It was to see if life would be better without me. He still hasn't decided. In his whole explanation, I kept emphasizing how he didn't love me and said it was like a child who needed to hear something 1,000 times just to understand it. He never apologized. In a rough way, I was shocked, distraught, and if you have a word to describe that awful emotion then I felt, I cried, I shouted, I cried again, and we sat in silence until I could talk. Then I told him how I could never trust him again. How could I possibly trust him not to walk out on me or the baby? How could I trust him to tell me these things or explain his emotions, to see the story from both sides? How could I possibly work myself dry again for an unloving husband? Okay, I didn't realize it was this long.
Wow, it's a lot.
I think we get the gist. And so in the end, sorry, I'll just finish up. Finally, I made it clear to Harry that we will separate for now, but will divorce, remain separated after the baby is born. I will make sure that he is not mentioned on my emergency contacts. He can't be trusted to show up or even where he says he is. I'm not going to update this anymore since I have things to do and babies to prepare for. Thank you for sticking around and reading this all.
No, this is just unfortunate.
Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like they had that falling out and he just kind of disappeared on a trip with a girl.
And she didn't know who this girl was.
Right.
And in the third update, we find out that the girl was actually his sister.
Right.
Yeah.
Or, his, and then nothing happened, so she says, and then they just ended up falling out. But I mean, imagine being pregnant and then...
Yeah, dealing with this.
Yeah.
Clearly, this guy was not ready for the kind of relationship that they have right now, right? Like, with all of the things. He said that I fell out of love with you in your first month of your pregnancy. I'm sure it took a lot for him to say that. But, I think it's a good move from her side. That's all I can say. It is unfortunate.
And that commenter was right. Like, get it reversed in all caps.
So
I think he or she was right.
This is a child that you're married to.
I mean, with that kind of passion, it must have come from like maybe personal experience. So she's like, I know, I recognize these signs.
Yeah.
Like,
how there's this whole notion about like husbands kind of losing interests or having affairs when the wives are pregnant. Like we see this in celebrities as well as, of course, regular people as well. Not saying that celebrities are not regular people, because they aren't. No. It's unfortunate, but it's not super uncommon. Yeah.
I think it's, I don't know what it is, but I would think that having a child with someone would kind of like make things feel, I mean, it's quite a special thing to have a child with someone, but at the same time, what people always say is like having a kid or getting married doesn't change the relationship. And if anything, it adds more stress, and it'll enlarge, and any cracks in relationships already there will become greater because of the stress of
you have to handle it with care. Yeah Absolutely. Are you guys having a good time?
I did. I'm sorry, I didn't know that story was going to be. I remember like doing the research and organizing these stories, and then they were like juicy and fun, and then
but it's still fun.
This is very real. It's very
but it's very intense. There's a lot of like emotional.
I mean, actually, we've been recording already an hour.
Oh yeah, it doesn't feel like
it. It doesn't feel like it, right? So I mean, we can finish up the story, and then the last one is a fun one.
Okay. No, this is okay. Look, this is real life, right? Like real life are going to have stories like this, rather than.
But it took a turn, because what we predict, like what we try to guess, it's so like, like fluffy, like in happy ending, but this is like another level. But I wonder if the guy would already fall out of love from her, because he said that first month of pregnant, but I guess that the feelings already start before, but the first month was like when he actually realized that he just didn't love her anymore.
And I think the losing the job because of that, I think sounded kind of like a lame excuse to me.
I agree.
Like
maybe it was like later, like he justified it, like he got fired first and then he kind of connected it so that he doesn't want to admit it to himself even. That, I mean, because the timeline doesn't really make sense. So if you're a great performer and then month one you're out of love, and within like 2 or 3 months, because she was 6 months pregnant, right? So then let's say 3 months, your performance is so bad that you are fired. I guess he's not taking responsibility for his actions.
Yeah, he has this tendency to, of course, we don't know anything about this guy's life, but in this explanation, 2 times, once was like, oh yeah, like I got fired because the new management didn't like me.
And then that's why I couldn't even apply for any job. I mean,
it could have been like depression. Like, sometimes you get
maybe
like,
he has some other issues. You're absolutely right.
You lose that effort to like try because you're just like, I can't face the tomorrow or today,
It's not a bad thing if he kind of takes that, like going to this other suburban town and taking time on his own. Maybe for him, it's probably a good thing to do.
But not leaving your
pregnant wife.
Yeah.
It sounds like, from my perspective, it sounds like maybe he got depressed by losing his job. And then from the job was kind of like, I'm not making the money that I need to make, or maybe disappointing in himself. And then he's like, well, maybe my life would be easier if I didn't have a wife and a kid on the way. And then he's like, then that kind of like festering idea, like we talked about before, was kind of like, well, do I really love my wife?
Yeah.
And then maybe it's like, maybe I'll be happier without my wife in my life, and then that's why he just took a trip out. And then, it's a slippery slope, like we said.
And also, this is, even on Reddit, you see, especially on this like sub, a lot of the times things are not black and white. This guy did a shitty thing to this person that he married and had this commitment to, but he also has a lot of things inside him that he needs to deal with, and it's a shitty thing, but you can't really, because probably it was hard for him to sort of go through those emotions and deal with it, know. So it's always, there's always gray. It's never black and white. Sometimes it is black and white. Like sometimes there's a clear asshole. Yeah.
Clear. That's a clear asshole. I mean, it's
bleached. Yeah.
Sometimes things are, for example, she probably thinks it's the end of the world that she's being left while she's pregnant.
Yeah.
At the same time, she might look back on this day, 16 years later when her kid is grown up and she's with a new loving husband, that like, thank God my husband left when he did.
Yeah.
Versus we like stuck together and I'm miserable raising this kid with a guy that doesn't love me, and I have grown to resent. So at the same time, it's like, I have a couple people in my life that are dealing with not divorce, but breakups, and I told them that sometimes relationships aren't meant to last forever, and sometimes can be a good thing that they end, so
like I just very recently, like 2 or 3 days back, someone in my family went through, like, signed her divorce papers, and she's my cousin, she's quite close to me, and then she called me up and she was crying, and she's like, and of course that marriage was over like since 2 years, and they have 2 kids, and then she was telling me that my kids, just pray for my kids, that they're fine and they're okay, and then I told her something, and that I really believe in that. He's like, what I said was that if you were stuck in this marriage, for them it would be even worse for them to see you guys like that. Right. This is way better. Like, of course it's unfortunate, no divorce is like a walk in the park or whatever, but in the long run, absolutely.
I'm not saying that the moment your relationship or marriage has like a difficulty, you should get divorced, but at the same time, it's like, it's you don't want to waste time that you could be with someone. Like definitely you have to work on it, and then after a while, if it does not, you have the same pattern again and again, then that, okay, you know what. But we've also talked in our relationship with Pacha and I that divorce is not an option. Because I also find that for example, if you're, I use this example with Pacha the other day, was that, if you're in a simulator as an astronaut, or like, where they practice in the pool, and you have a difficulty, maybe you're like, okay, we couldn't do it, let's restart the simulation, versus like if you're on the space station, the ISS, and you're like, we have this malfunction, you have to like work at it until the station explodes, because there's no other option. And so sometimes I find that when people feel like there's an out, they don't try their hardest and just like, okay, well, let's just hit the reset button and let me find someone new. So so I'm wondering like how do you discern that?
I mean, it's very interesting that you like, because I used to think like that, where, it would be like, yeah, no, divorce is not an option. And do I think very different from then? I don't think very different, because I do think that you can't, it's not easily, one shouldn't, just in what you said about, like, if there's a slight issue, I think that if you have that mental thing, that you don't even get deep in the relationship. You don't.
You won't try to make it work even.
But the way that I have changed from this thing a bit is that if there is like something big in there, definitely, like, I should give myself that leeway or not feel trapped in a way that maybe a lot of women in previous generations, especially from the culture that I come from, that they felt that, I'm in it, and they will, I will go through it, and I will take it, and I will work it out, and I will, I'll work on, I don't feel that extreme anymore, but, definitely easily, like, just because something is wrong, I'll just get out of it. I don't feel like that definitely is not my way of thinking. But yes, it's not a fallback, but it's like, when you go to that wit's end where you can't take anymore, there is an option. So that kind of like similar to what you think, that I do think that divorce shouldn't be something that you think of it that, hey, like, entitlement shouldn't come, when it comes to divorce. Yeah. But yeah, Salim, what do you think? He's like,
No, okay. So, to quote Osho, from Wild Wild Country.
Fancy.
The documentary. No, but he has some good work, actually. So, I think even in the documentary, there's one line where he says, isn't it really unfortunate that people have to stick together because of religion, because of certain laws, if they lose interest in each other, or if they are not in love with each other? So I think people should have the option to decide. This is basically a joint decision between two adults, and people shouldn't feel they're stuck.
Yeah.
But I guess we also have to, as a society, as individuals, I think it's also in our responsibility to respect this institution as well. So just because there's an argument, just because a couple of things didn't go right, you just, take that path. I think there has to be, if you make a choice, you have to have that commitment. And you really have to kind of understand where or at what point do you make that difficult decision, but it shouldn't be off the table anywhere or at any point. So yeah, basically
you're Osho, like.
No, basically I'm not Osho, but I'm just saying, yeah, in general, I guess, especially, I guess it's more more important for the cultures that we come from.
Yeah.
I guess, like, if you ask my parents, it's off the table. Whatever crime I commit, whatever crime she commits, from both our sides, it'll be, sorry, let's not go there. What else can we do? Like, how can we solve it? Like, what else can we do to make things better for you? But I think that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying, that, in the previous generation, it was like, you have to stick it out, and, you need to sort of like work at it until it's perfect, and there is no scope of that. No scope of like any other way. I think that extreme view in our generation, it has changed. But yeah, like, so not in favor of like, just something slightly goes wrong, and without working on it, you think of divorce. Yeah.
That's funny that you bring up religion, because my family is very religious, Christians, and I'm not so religious. And I remember my family always pressured me to go into church, and I said that, I feel like it's more disrespectful to be a fake Christian, or like I don't want to lie to my family and be like, because it would be a lot easier to just tell them, I'm very religious and I follow whatever you guys believe, and so you guys would get off my back. But at the same time, I don't want to like lie to them and be untrue to myself, or like, I think the worst thing is because I think what happened to me growing up was I saw a lot of mistreatment done by religious people, and it really turned me away from religion, and I don't want to be another person that people might look at me and be like, hey, look at that guy who says he's Christian, he's acting like this, And so I don't want to misrepresent, a religion also just because I don't want to be bothered by my family. And so I told my family that, if I do come to church and if I do tell you that I'm a Christian, isn't it more important that I mean it, that I feel it in my heart than to just, lie about it, because whether or not God is real, like he would know if I was in my heart, if I was just going to church, going to the show. So I think the similar thing in a marriage is that, yeah, you're right. Okay. I will amend what I was saying, about not feeling like there's escape, because you're right. I don't want Pacha to feel like divorce is not an option. Because I want her to be in the marriage because she chooses to be in the marriage, right? And yeah, so that's true. Yeah. So
but I guess you can
if you want.
No, but but I understand where you're coming from. There should always be an option, but our options and that we agree on is that we don't want to think that there's this alternative, right? Because we want to be together and we want to make it work and we want to find a solution to go through with it together, so it's just a different perspective of how you want.
I think
they can also
sorry, please go ahead.
No, so I think they can be mutually exclusive as well. Like it doesn't have to be connected to each other,
Exactly.
because then you go into the danger of what Justin says, like you don't have an option, so let's work it out. It shouldn't be like that. It should be, we want to work it out. Full stop. That's it. Option. And option B, sure, that can be on the table and there are so many other options on the table if you are creative and if you are open-minded, right? But yeah, you have to be in a relationship for the relationship. And also, Pacha 2023, Justin 2023, they are not the same Pacha and Justin from 2033.
Yeah,
totally.
So having a fixed position or kind of being restrictive, or not just on this topic, but on any topic, I guess, may not be the wisest thing to do.
Yeah, but just to
Osho.
clarify,
Wait, can we say who's Osho real fast in case people are listening?
What's his full name?
He is called by many names, Bhagwan Rajnishi.
Rajnishi,
So he's I guess cult leader is one way of seeing him.
So he started out as like a thought, a life guru, and then of course, as
he was
most
a
life
religious
gurus end up
sect
being,
almost.
From the wild country.
From the wild
so if
country.
you want to check his work,
we're not sponsored by Netflix.
But on Netflix, Wild Country, fascinating.
Very fun. Yeah, it was a good documentary.
Yeah.
Okay, as you were saying, sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying that, just want to clarify that, I also understand where Justin is coming from with that, because nowadays we hear of a lot of marriages where people are like, the slightest thing happens and then they talk about divorce. So I am also not for that kind of a thing. But yeah, I think we are all on the same page.
But I think we already passed to that point of that young love that we will be like, when we have a fight, we just no, let's break up. Now it's more to that we make it work, or there's other options, divorce can be one of it, but now it's not like that. Not every fights have to be okay, I'm gonna.
I think that automatically comes after you really get married, because of the whole thing, two families getting involved. You sign a piece of paper. Now the nation, the country, recognizes it, it's a legal thing. It's not as easy as texting, hey, you know what, I hate you now, let's not see each other anymore.
Ghost her.
You can do that anymore, and I think you'll see a lot of an automatic shift. So our fights before we got married were way different than the fights that we again, throughout our 10.5 years, divorce was never even a thought. We had fights, definitely, but it was never a thought. But I can't confidently say that if we didn't get married, in the past, in my past relationships, let's say the conflict was 7 out of 10. Hey, I'm breaking up with you, or you know what, I shouldn't have gotten into a relationship with you ever again. But I would never say that to her, where I say I shouldn't have gotten married to you ever again. And that came naturally. It wasn't someone dangled that piece of paper in front of me and that's why I changed my behavior. It's not like that. So I guess the escalation has to be really, it has to build up. It has to really be to that extent before you even kind of consider the D word. But like I said, I think these are two different two different concepts, and they don't have to be like connected to each other necessarily.
I agree.
Yep.
I concur.